Today on In Your Face Anatomy, we are looking at the sternum and the ribs and the various components of the rib cage itself. So let's get into it. All right, the sternum. So our sternum, also known as our breastbone here, it's got a few components to it that we want to be familiar with. The first is the manubrium. So let me lean in here. So the top part of my sternum, all of this is my manubrium. And it comes down to this line right here. It's a little hard to see. Let me zoom in. See that little line? Everything above that line, this is my manubrium. And we drop below that line, this is all my body, the body of my sternum. And then at the very end, this is where it comes to this little pointy section. This is my xiphoid, spelled with an X, xiphoid process. I've got my manubrium, my body, and my xiphoid process in my sternum. And the only other thing to even address in the sternum is what we call the costal cartilage. So remember, costal means rib. There we go. And so this is the cartilage that the ribs come around and attach to. So I have a rib here. Here's my rib. It's going to pull around and attach to the costal cartilage like so. Manubrium, body, xiphoid process, costal cartilage. The sternum is a piece of cake. All right, ribs. So for our ribs, they're pretty straightforward as far as the bony features go. I've got one end, we've got some things going on, and then the other end, there's absolutely nothing going on. It just goes completely flat. And that's the end that actually comes in and attaches to my sternum. So the end that has everything going on, and there's really just a couple of things here. I've got the head, which is going to be this portion of my rib. Then I've got my tubercle, which is the bump. It's the only bump in the length of my rib, and it's close to the head. So the head, the rib tubercle, and then the shaft. And that's it for the rib. Head, tubercle, shaft. Now, how this works is we said the flat end comes in and attaches to my sternum. This busy end with all of the stuff, it's going to come in and align right along my thoracic vertebra. So it's going to plug in like so to make that joint. I mean, I did that backwards. Bam. Yeah, no. Like that. That's what we want. Bam. So come in to make that joint because this is the front of our spine. This is the back. I was just a little confused for a moment. All right. Then the only other thing that we need to know when it comes to ribs is how many ribs have we got? Well, we have 12 pairs of ribs in total. How many of them are true ribs? How many of them are false ribs? And how many of them are floating ribs? Well, this is how we tell. So with my true ribs, they are the ribs that come in and attach to their own individual piece of costal cartilage. Their own individual piece. So even this one is its own individual piece of costal cartilage. It goes all the way up. These last three, they come together and form into one piece of costal cartilage, and that's on both sides. We can see it here. These three come back into one single piece of costal cartilage. So these are my false ribs. So I have 12 pairs of ribs in total. The first 7 pairs are true ribs. Then the last 5 pairs are false ribs. And I know what you're thinking. Wait, there's only 3 here. The last 2 pair of ribs that we have on each side are my floating ribs. So they don't have any costal cartilage at all. They don't make it around. They jut out just a little bit from the vertebra, just to give us that little bit of extra protection along the back of our spine to help protect some of our more important organs. So my false ribs share costal cartilage, and then my floating ribs don't have any costal cartilage. So so we're clear on that. And I have 7 pairs of true ribs. I have 5 pairs of false ribs. And of that 5, the last 2 pair are floating ribs. And that's it for ribs. Very straightforward, super easy. Good luck. All right, just real quick, a couple of random bones that we just really need to know what they are. So first is my hyoid bone. So the hyoid bone we actually find in the front of our neck. This bone does not articulate with any other bone. So this bone does not touch any other bones. It's really easy to spot though. It's kind of this horseshoe-shaped bone. kind of weird. It sits in the front of our throat, and this just helps to kind of keep our trachea open. It gives some support to some of the muscles here that help move the trachea and stuff. And it's just so our windpipe doesn't collapse, is what this does. This is my hyoid bone. Next up, I've got the clavicle. Clavicle we also know as the collarbone. So this bone is going to attach to the manubrium at one end, and then it's going to go back and attach to part of my scapula at the other end as it stretches across the top of my chest on each side. So this is my clavicle, aka my collarbone. And then lastly is the patella. This is my patellar bone. And this is my kneecap, essentially, is what this is. So the only other thing we need to know besides this is the patella is that our kneecap is actually embedded in the quadriceps tendon. So the quadriceps are the muscles on the front of our thigh. They come down and they kind of help wrap around and encase this bone. So quadriceps tendon, think patella. Good luck.